Doctor, look.
Stand aside, nurse. I'm Dr. Homebrew.
Stand clear.
Yeah, welcome everybody. It's Dr. Homebrew. We're here, live quarantine edition. Like that. I guess it's not even really quarantine anymore. It's just avoiding the boomer flu.
So it's learning how to be a hermit and love it.
Yeah, or it's act like JP season, the summer. Stay
Learn
home.
to act like yes.
Don't
He
go
quarantined before it was cool.
Yeah, baby. I'm the hipster. I'm the hipster in this crew. Welcome, everybody. This is Dr. Homebrew. We have a good show for you today, as always. But first, I want to remind you guys about 5-Star Chemicals. As if you could forget, 5-Star is the best way to clean and sanitize your home brewing equipment. They have PBW and they have Star San, and that's what you need. That's that 1-2 combo, baby.
I feel like I ought to just bathe in Star San. I know it's not FDA approved, and it does kind of make your skin a little dry. But sometimes I kind of feel like that would be a good idea.
To have dry skin?
To be like cleansed of contaminants with Star San.
Let's not recommend it. Like, if you're the president saying that, and it's like, let's just bathe in Star San and this whole COVID thing will be gone.
I don't know.
There's
I feel like you could just bathe in it. I mean, give yourself an enema, put it up your pee hole. I don't know.
I don't know.
Some people say that. I don't say that. But if you insert it up your pee hole, like an elephant would.
Thank you for choosing to watch us instead of the convention tonight, you guys.
Yes.
Whatever.
Oh yeah, there's
persuasion.
there's some political thing happening tonight, I guess.
Yeah.
Yep.
Who knows?
The chat room is.
See, I did not recommend that we insert Star San into our bodies, ingest it, shoot it up.
No.
That would be affirmatively bad. Do not do that. Don't
cross
do
that
it.
line.
I've never said that.
Okay.
Some people do. I don't know.
People
Ken
say.
is back with us. Ken, how's it going, man?
Good evening again.
Good evening again.
Welcome again.
We have a Belgian Dark Strong this time from you.
I've been on a big Belgian kick lately. My desert island beer, even though it really wouldn't probably be best on a desert island, but if I had to only drink beer for the rest of my life, it'd be Belgians.
Something to sip on a desert island. Yeah.
Are these beers that you've brewed before? I mean, it sounds like it.
Yes. Yeah. So this is the second iteration kind of one. The first one I did of this in the Michigan Beer Cup back in 2019, it took bronze. And another guy in our club took silver for us. We had a good representation that year for it.
Nice. That sounds great, man. That sounds really good.
And you've done some Belgian club projects too, or I think on the last show you were mentioning something about something your club did with the triple, or some other guys.
That's more just me and a friend of mine that we got. We've been trying. Yeah, we've been trying to replicate this one beer from Belgium, from Bruges.
Yeah. All right.
Here. Yeah. So already this beer head is vastly, wildly different than your one on the last show, Ken.
Can somebody teach JP how to pour beer?
This is how you pour beer.
Well, as a beer judge, you're taught to pour the beer straight down to the glass. If your steward's pouring the beer for you, they will pour it like this, and that's what they'll do. It's gently pour it down the middle of the glass.
Look, Ken, you haven't got your scores yet. That'd be nice to me, okay?
Wouldn't tip it, but sometimes you get a gusher, and then you do have to use caution.
Yeah. Well, and what we're saying, or what I'm saying, is that head has not moved. In your last beer, it would have been halfway down by now. Bubbles are tight, and that's sort of what I was saying last time. Is that I don't see any big bubbles on the surface like I did on the other one. So I feel like on that last bottle, maybe you had something in there. I mean, look at that creamy head. Look at that thing.
This is creamy, yeah.
That's great. Yeah. Anyway, let's start.
JP's just happy to have beer.
Yeah. I mean, whatever. Brian Shaw, why don't you go ahead and kick us?
I certainly will. And Ken, you were on the previous show, but for listeners that may not have listened to that show first, you were in a homebrew club. What is that club?
It is the Royal Oak Area Homebrew Club.
Excellent.
Outside of Detroit.
Detroit. Go Detroit. Go Red Wings. And I was going to ask you, how long have you been homebrewing?
What's wrong with you?
I've been homebrewer for a little more than 9 years now.
Red Wings.
Oh, cool. I still, it's a thing that I learned from my ex-wife, and it's been like years, and I still can't divorce myself of the Red Wings as much as I can be divorced from her. So I'm not totally divorced from her yet either. So maybe it's a divorce thing. I don't know.
That's a different episode. That's a different
Yeah,
podcast.
that's Jamil's Love Strong.
When
Which
the Red Wings start winning, then your divorce will be finalized. Something like that.
Oh God, that's
might be a while.
Then in that case, I just got to hope beyond hope for Red Wings or something. But that'll be nice. And it's interesting, Ken. You were talking about brewing Belgians lately, and I went through a phase like a lot of homebrewers do early on, where I was excited about Belgian beer and I drank a lot of it and I tried to brew a lot. And then I kind of got away from it. And as much as I like IPA, and I like IPA, we've kind of gotten to the point where so much craft beer is just IPA that I try to affirmatively go look for different stuff, and I find that I'm gravitating more toward Belgians lately myself. I haven't been brewing a lot, but just in terms of things I want to buy, I will maybe go buy more Belgians because I hadn't for a while, and I love Dark Strong is one of my favorite styles. I've brewed this multiple times. It's a great beer. You can go different directions with it. It's a lot of fun to brew, I think. And that's my long-winded intro to your score sheet. I liked your beer. Appropriate bottle inspection. It was a bottle, appropriate size, cap, fill level. It was perfectly great. Aroma got kind of got a high level of malt, sort of a low level of breadiness. Not Brett, but bread, like you'd make a sandwich with. No roast, which is appropriate for style. You don't specifically not supposed to have roast malt in a Belgian Dark Strong. I got a hint of coconut, which I don't think you added coconut. I think it's just part of the malt complexity or something. Brian, we can see you on your phone. Your laptop camera is capturing your phone. So
my brother Jimmy is watching, and he says, "Rock on." So there you go.
See, it's show related. You're not
in
just
Duluth.
Buzzing.
He's in Duluth. Yeah, I'm not just.
Nice. Get back on the beer, please. Hi, Jimmy. Nice. No offense, but no one.
Exactly. I get kind of a low ethanol. Kind of a sweet, perfumey character, not a harsh fusel ethanol, but kind of a good ethanol character in the aroma. Low raisin, really no off aromas or bad aromas in here. So a 9 out of 12 for aroma. Appearance is 3 out of 3. It's crystal clear. It's medium brown with orange highlights. A thing people should remember about this style is that it's a dark strong. It's not necessarily a black strong. Dark, it's dark like a dark beer. It could be like a dunkel, which is a brown beer. Not everything has to be a stout to be a dark beer.
It can be like reddish brown. It's not. It's not black. I made that mistake early on. Was thinking about Belgian Dark Strongs and first started judging, and I hadn't had many. I'm like, this isn't really dark. And like another judge was like, you dumbass, it's dark. It's reddish brown. It's freaking dark. You're just get over yourself.
Exactly. The head is medium and long lasting. I poured this like 15 minutes ago, and this is a thing that people need. On the podcast, they won't be able to see this. If you're watching this on Facebook Live or YouTube or something later on, this is not a giant head. It's maybe 3 millimeters on top of the beer. And this, saying that a head is long lasting doesn't mean you have to have this much head on a pint for 10 minutes. That's, despite you were going for that on the beer in the last show and did a good job with that. But that's not what a long-lasting head is. So I think people, in terms of beer education, beer learning, that's good to think about. Flavor. Initially, the character was malt and some alcohol sharpness, a little hint of raisin. Ethanol comes up to balance the malt, I think, more so than hop bitterness. To me, it was more perceptible than the hop bitterness. It wasn't fusel-y. Fusels have a very distinctive, almost kind of headache-making quality for me right away, and a little bit of more sweetness and more there's a industrial, like you're drinking something that you should be putting in your fuel tank or something, not
Hand
ethanol
sanitizer, like we have that. Everybody has that nowadays.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's exactly right. I didn't get that at all, but I thought the ethanol was maybe a little harsh in its perception. It's well attenuated, finish is long and kind of dominated by the ethanol. So this gives the perception of being a very high alcohol beer. I'll be curious later when you tell us your OG and your final gravity, what the ABV on this is. Gave this 10 out of 20 for flavor. Mouthfeel 4 out of 5. Body is medium. Carbonation's low to medium. High warming, all that is fine. It's a little harsh from the ethanol, but I don't know that I'd call it astringent. But I don't know that I wouldn't. It kind of falls in that category where, the style guidelines talk a lot about what is and isn't astringency, and the appropriate places in the score sheet for those things. And ethanol doesn't really. It's funny, for an alcoholic beverage, ethanol doesn't really enter into the discussion in the style guidelines or how you fill out your score sheets. It doesn't really. They don't really discuss if it's a harsh ethanol. Is that considered astringency or not? So I knocked it off a point for that. Overall impression, I think the basics of this beer are on point. You didn't make some of the common mistakes that people make when making a Belgian Dark Strong, which is, the roast malts or tons of special B. I'm guilty of that. I've made a Belgian Dark Strong with way too much special B. Oh, special B is good. Let me put in a lot. Oh God, no! Don't ever do that. It's well attenuated, which is something difficult unless you really understand your process and you have your fermentation process down. It's hard to get this to be attenuated all the way, and you clearly did. So I think your basics are all fine. I think that the two things that I would suggest are if you did add any simple sugars, which I'll be curious later to find out if you added sucrose, dextrose, or any of those. I might back off on that some because that might contribute to maybe a little more perceived alcohol than you wanted. And also as far as fermentation temperature control, I know from the previous show you can do that. And I'll be curious like what temp you had the fermentation at for this. I might think about adjusting that a little bit. But overall, 32, which is a very good beer. So thank you for sharing. I appreciate that.
Thanks.
Wonderful. You're welcome. All right, Brian Cooper.
All right. Okay. The Belgian Dark Strong. Yeah. The head is impressive, and it does still stick around there, and it does some nice lacing on the edge of the glass there. This isn't my normal judging glass. I couldn't find my little sample glass, but usually I like to use clear, but I think I can work past the logo here from the beer bus, but the local beer bus guys, which probably are sadly not doing that well these days. And I took a beer tour on my a birthday last year, I guess it was. We went to Rare Barrel. We went to all kinds of good places. Should I get on topic, JP?
Yeah, that would be great, brother. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, my buddy streaked in the Rare Barrel. It was great. Anyway, well, my friend's buddy. But that's a long story I won't get into.
Hey, Rose. I'm going to start calling you Rose Nyland from now on.
I want to hear more about this streaking.
Shut up, Star. Don't distract Cooper.
I have to get to bed, guys. Let's go. Come on.
Okay.
Hey, I need to eat
In the nose. I agree with the raisiny notes, medium raisiny malt notes up front. Firm alcohol presence, I would say medium high, but fairly smooth in the nose. It's got a little spicy, peppery quality, kind of medium, and seems like a light floral hop in there, pretty low level, okay for the style. Medium fruity esters overall. There's no real big fruitiness poking through, but it's kind of general little fruitiness. Seems clean, no DMS or diacetyl. Appearance-wise, I found it, I found it to be kind of slightly murky, but I don't know. Yeah,
a little bit. Yeah,
it's pretty. It's this one's harder to see through than the triple, even though it's pretty dark out where I am now. Yeah. But it's poured a low light tan head. Got formed. It stuck around for a good while. The first bottle I poured actually last night, the head acted differently. I poured it, and it had this kind of crackly head that just like went and just like faded almost instantly. So like I'm getting again some bottle variation on this, and with bottle conditioned beers, that's inevitably going to happen. But well, maybe not inevitably, but sometimes you can get a little variation, especially after some time in storage. It was like that soda pop fizz thing, and fizzled out. But this one actually is a little bit better, and getting a little bit different impressions off of it. So the malt is lightly in the flavor, lightly raisiny. The flavors overall are pretty light for a style. I would say to me, in a way, it's kind of lacking some richness, or maybe there's something that's blocking the richness. It's very dry and has a pretty big alcohol component. Comes across a little more roughly than I would hope. The fruitiness is generally low in the flavor. Phenolics are pretty balanced in the malt. The aftertaste is a hint of dried fruit, and again, a little bit of a biting, almost like leathery, dry note in the finish. That's interesting. So it's maybe they can get pretty dry, and but there should be a little more complexity there to push against the dryness and keep it a little more interesting. But mouthfeel wise, medium light body, low carbon dioxide. The sample I had before, it just kind of dissipated too quickly. This one I would say is a little better, and would maybe score a little better than the one I had last night. There's a little back to the flavor, a little hint of sweetness, despite some dry quality to it. It's not creamy though, but like the one I had last night was a little sharper and more biting for the style than I thought it should be. I thought it should be a little smoother. This one I feel is a little less biting. There was something that probably got away in the bottle in the one last night, maybe, that did something weird to the head and made it do what it did. But
more carbonation.
Well, it was. I don't know that it was more highly carbonated, but it just like the head just kind of crackled away, and it was just like fell to nothing like really quickly. And this one is obviously different to me. It's sticking around. So I think I have more what JP and Brian have here. And the one last night was just weird. It just dissipated. But also I have to confess, I kept the box in my fridge, and I just unearthed them from the box last night. So it was refrigerated as soon as I got it off my hot front patio, and pushed it into the fridge. But like the box was kind of tilted, and some of these were might have still been leaning slightly upside down. So that's the confession of a Dr. Homebrew that means to judge the beers more promptly and store them better. But I was like, oh, okay, get the COVID box from the out exterior world and shove it into my fridge, and I'll wash my hands and deal with that later when it's been decontaminated. But yeah, I mean, anyway, so I'm not sure. Actually, I don't recall for sure if this was one of the ones that was leaning slightly upside down, but I very gently unearthed them and tipped them right, the ones that were upside down, right side up. And again, I'm getting off on a tangent. I see Major Jim here.
Brother. It's fine.
Is cracking the whip.
You're doing all right.
All right.
I love you for being you.
So this one is, and I was wondering if I would taste the difference in the beers from yesterday to today, because I felt guilty for treating your beer like that. There was definitely some alcohol, though. It had a pretty sharp warmth. There is something a little rough, like a little astringency, a little sharpness, a little bite to it that I would like to be smoothed out a little bit. I mean, when I think, a favorite Belgian Dark Strongs, the Rochefort, the 10 or the 12, it's like, it's just deceptively smooth and so alcoholic, but you don't taste it, and there's no bite to it. This one's not quite there. It's good, but it's not quite there. This beer, overall impression, the beer has a lot of promise. It has a lot of redeeming qualities, and the aroma, especially with that nice raisiness that comes through. It just fell a little flat in some other ways, and I think the sample I had last night was not as good as the one I'm having tonight, because I'm enjoying this one a little bit more. Lacked some of the so the dryness is part of it too. I think you want to work a balance with your beer to where the if you finish out too dry on certain beers, it's going to make the beer fall flat. And but depending on where you started and what's in it, complexity wise, ingredients wise, and how you kept the fermentation happy with these beers, obviously, because that's a big component of making a happy Belgian Dark Strong.
Oh, yeah.
But it didn't have it should have, even though it's not a sweet beer, it should have the impression of sweetness from all the ingredients that are there and everything. Even if there's a pretty good dryness there, it can get a little leatheriness, but it's balanced with something that tastes sweet from the malt. So the dryness kind of takes over everything else here. Need a little less of that biting quality, take care of the yeast. Obviously, you know what you're doing. Pitch a big, healthy starter, and but yeah, overall, I'd say it's complex enough, but it's lacking a little bit of complexity that would make this a little bit better beer. I scored the beer last night at 29, but I think I would probably score this one more towards what Brian did, 31, 32. There's a little variation either in my handling and storage of it or in the actual bottles that I poured, because this one is still acting much differently. That it fell to a flat, like what's in the top of the bottle here, just no head.
And let's note for the record here, we talked about this in the last episode, that these are bottles that Ken very kindly shipped to us, but it happened to be the hottest heat wave we've had in a year. And this bottle sat on my porch for an afternoon in 100+ degree weather, not in the sun, thankfully, but it was delayed a day getting to me, sitting on a UPS truck, probably at 120 degrees inside that truck for a day and a half. So this, through no fault of Ken's, this beer arrived to us through less than optimal circumstances, and that may have had to do with some of the stuff we're talking about.
Sure.
I have the same feeling. I think the ingredients seem pretty good, very good on this as well. And it's just like something went a little south on this beer, and it's probably not Ken's fault too much. But let's talk about it.
I would give it. I don't often jump in, but when I do, I would have gone 34 on this one. Okay. There is an astringent sharpness to it. I think the malt is great. I think part of one of the hardest parts of brewing a Belgian Dark Strong is to get that malt character just right. You know what I mean? You need the balance of raisiny, but you also need to clean it up. It can't be cloying. It needs to be multifaceted. It can't just be, here's fucking Crystal 120 and Special B, and then you go fucking brush your teeth. Like, it can't be like that either. There needs to be some lightness. There needs to be some mouth. And I think you have a lot of that. You have a lot of layers to your crystal malt, I would bet. I don't know.
Well, the recipe's can be really simple, and a lot of flavor can just come from the dark sugars. It's not.
Yeah,
really even malt derived a lot of times.
Sure, that's a good point. I think there is a little bit of hop character coming through, but not a whole lot, and it's good. I think it tastes good, but there's a sharp thing going on. So I'd be interested to hear about your fermentation as well. But yeah, I would have thrown a 34 for sure. Anyway, now's your chance, Ken. Go ahead.
We're not far apart.
We're all within 7.
Yeah. So this, I think I mentioned before, this is one we did before. A friend of mine did, and we want to try and do a little bit different approach to a dark strong and see if we can do it us. So this recipe has a lot of actually rye malt in it.
Wow.
Probably, more so than normal. And we wanted to, get was that earthy character of the rye malt, and see if we can get that out there to kind of present some of that richness, that earthy richness, kind of go along with some of the other flavors that go along with the Belgian yeast. So this batch itself was a 3-gallon batch, so a small winter batch I did. It's been about 8 months now, so I brewed it back in January this year. 70% Chateau Pilsner malt, 11% Weyermann rye malt, 9% just clear candy syrup. We didn't do the dark candy syrup here. We just did the clear candy syrup there. So 9% there. 2% Munich malt, 2% Special B in this one. Before we did Crystal Rye, but I did not have enough time. Crystal Rye is a little special order, so I didn't have enough time to do it in this one here. So I substituted out Special B this time instead of Crystal Rye. We got the 2% chocolate rye, 2% dextrose, and then 2% rice hulls, just kind of with all the rye that we had in there. We had to throw some rice hulls in there as well.
Chocolate rye. That's a good choice.
Yeah, that's what it really worked out. Like the rye, kind of all those different ryes, really we thought really kind of worked well together. The mash,
none of us picked out the rye either. That's really interesting.
I picked out a little spiciness,
and I think the spiciness is going to come from more of the Saaz hops, though, because we did 2 ounces of Saaz hops at 60 minutes for 29 IBUs on there. Use the triple double from Imperial yeast again, which is Westmalle yeast from there. Fermented at 64 and kept it pretty consistent there. So I used one of the tilt hygrometers to kind of measure where the gravity and the fermentation temperature is at. So it was pretty consistent at 64 degrees from there. So we had that. The OG was 1087. The final gravity was 1015 for an ABV of 9.6.
Yeah.
Okay.
Close enough to 10 is call it 10. Yeah, you definitely can tell there's alcohol in here.
Yeah. So like I said, I don't know. I mean, to be fair, I don't know if the 2%, Special B versus the 2% Crystal Rye is going to change it. It's not going to make a drastic difference in the flavor of this one compared to what we did before.
No, that's a perfect amount.
Yeah. Now we did do 2% dextrose on top of 9% of clear candy, the clear candy syrup and stuff like that. You're talking, 11% of just straight sugar in that, which maybe is going to come down to some of those harsher notes you're getting because it just kind of got the alcohol up there too much without adding enough body to the beer.
Yeah. No dark sugars though.
No, we didn't need dark.
Yeah.
What was your fermentation temperature?
64 degrees. Pretty
64, okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So that was, you controlled it to a good temp. So there was that's why, any alcohol that I got, it was clear that it wasn't fusel, because fusel is what you get when you have that uncontrolled rise to frickin' 85, 90 degrees. And it's unpleasant.
I'm
all angered up about fusel alcohols. I don't want to talk about
generally for my Belgians, I like to keep it at the lower end of the fermentation temperature. Yeah. The triple that we did on the last episode, I let it freeze to see what it did. I kind of was a different outside of what I normally do for that, but I generally like to try and keep it at the lower end of the temperature range for the yeast that I use with Belgians.
Yeah. Is Imperial the one that comes in the can that you don't make a starter?
It used to be a can.
They used to be a can, but now they come into 200 billion pouches.
Did you make a starter?
I don't recall on this. I want to say I probably did. Being for most of my Belgians, I generally do.
You probably don't. I don't know if they say you don't need to, you probably don't need to. But having said that, for a beer this big, I would always make a starter. And your process, you clearly know what you're doing with your process. So I don't need to tell you that.
Yeah, I think anytime I go over 1060 for an OG, I'm usually go to make a starter with that.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Cool.
So from the flavor standpoint, it sounded like everybody was kind of saying like the flavors. You could use a little bit more of an oomph in the malt character, the flavor, the richness on there. I definitely don't. The Special B, I think, I'd be very careful with. It's like too much of that. It's like it's like any other crystal malt. Too much of the crystal malt, and it's like it just becomes clingy, sweet, and stuff like that. If I look at the rye malt on this, we've got 11 and 12, 13, and if we had we were looking at like 15% rye malt on this grain bill possibly.
I think it's too much.
You think so?
Yeah.
I agree.
I would throw what crystal malts did you have?
Just a special B.
Just a special B. I would throw in a crystal 50-60.
Yeah.
Or something. I would take some of the rye malt out because there is a spiciness to it, and I've read a bunch of people him and haw about on both sides of whether rye actually imparts a spiciness or if we are just like you were saying, Ken. Maybe it's the Saaz hops that we're tasting. Well, maybe when you use rye in your malts, in your beers, you're sort of hopping with these sort of earthy, spicy kind of hops. So inherently, maybe you get some of that. I've heard some people say you do get spiciness from rye. Some people don't. In my opinion, I would back down on the rye malt. I think it's cool. Maybe the chocolate rye, can stay or whatever, but I would sort of stick to more of like a traditional, with some of the crystal malt or I don't know. Then again, I don't really know what I'm talking about because I haven't made a Belgian Dark Strong recipe in, I don't know, fucking 5-10 years. So I don't know.
It needs some more double like characteristics to it. The raisiness is there. There's a little bit, but there's other richness in a double that like Belgian Dark Strong kind of you can think of as a stronger version of a double, and it's the complexity raises from there. But there's raisin and plum and prune and a lot of fruit. Yeah, and I think that the rye might be getting in the way of that a little bit.
I think it's crushing it a little bit, and I wonder if there aren't those sort of unfermentable. Well, not anyway. Let me back up. I've also read that some recipes can be just pale malt, and then you supplement all those flavors from the candy sugar. I don't know that to be true necessarily. There's different ways to approach it, but I would start with like a Jamil recipe, and then supplement some of that crystal malt with some rye malt, and see what that roundness, because you'll get 80% or so of that flavor, the big round chewiness of a Belgian Dark Strong, and then you can supplement with some rye malt there.
Yeah, and I would echo what Cooper and said before, what Jip was just saying, which is, there's a lot of different kinds of candy sugar, and there's an opportunity to get some flavor in as well as just fermentables with that. And there's a time and a place for just essentially the simple syrup, essentially just the sucrose or dextrose that's a syrup. But a beer like this, it's just another layer of flavor to be able to get like one of the dark candies, or even get two different kinds of the dark candy in smaller quantities and mix them if you like. You just add more flavor complexity. This is a beer that you want like a lot of it's supposed to have a complex flavor, and there's a lot of different stuff going on. But even if you just swapped out a dark candy sugar for the light candy sugar you use, I think you'd get a huge flavor impact from that.
Yeah.
Maybe not huge, but you get a flavor impact from that as opposed to using.
I think part of this beer is the subtleness. It's those little subtle pieces. Yeah. It's not just a spike in this one flavor. It's like you want to have that a little bit here, and that's kind of like for me. It's kind of like, you get a little bit of this, that complexity.
Yeah, keep it well rounded and a lot of flavors. Yeah,
right. For sure.
I like just since he mentioned Jay-Z's book here, he uses some caramunic in there, some aromatic, and some melanoidin alongside the special B, which I think I like. I like a little caramunic can add some complexity for sure. Melanoidin's a kind of a trick you can use if you don't want to, use traditional methods. Sometimes I don't think they would ever use a melanoidin malt in a true Belgian Dark Strong. A lot of it just comes again from the sugars, the dark sugar and the syrups, and get some traditional syrups and play with, and just use a simpler recipe. Honestly.
All right.
But yeah,
great.
Otherwise, I mean, strength. It was for 9% or so. It's going down smooth enough that I can drink a good amount of this, and it's a good beer. Again, probably a little abused, and it would be much better if we drank it with you out there, where you are. But
I'll send the next batch off in the winter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great idea.
All right, Ken. Thanks, man. Let you split.
Cheers,
guys. Thanks. Cheers, guys.
All right,
thanks, Ken.
Later,
Cheers.
Man. All right. Cool. We're going to take a quick break, everybody. We'll be right back with a beer that I don't have, but that's okay. I'm drinking a Bo Pils from I'm all right. Stay tuned, everybody. This is Dr. Homebrew. We'll be right back.
Now, back to the examination.
All right. Thanks a lot for sticking with us, everybody. We have Tyler on the line. Tyler, what's happening, my dude?
Doing all right.
Thanks for sending us beer. I was supposed to try to get out to Brian's to pick up the extra bottle you shipped, but I couldn't make it. So I apologize. I don't have your beer to drink, but I will live vicariously through the notes from the doctor.
It just landed. Yeah. So I'm thankful that you could come on and we've got a full show. So yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Thanks for sending JP. I'll give him the bottle the next time I bring something to him anyway.
That'd be great.
You can taste it later.
What beer did you send, Tyler?
I sent a blonde ale.
Okay.
Just your basic
Standard
blonde.
Blonde ale, man. I'm telling you, you got the where we're looking you at Zoom, you got the college banners in the background. I know exactly. Of course, it's a blonde ale. It's easily slammable. I don't know. Now I'm just making. Is it something that you've brewed before? Is this your first time brewing a blonde ale?
Yeah, it's my first time. Pretty much, I've been brewing for 5 years or so, but
Okay.
wasn't consistent till this year. So I'm kind of going through the styles.
Dude,
This is the first one I'd say that came out truly drinkable.
Okay.
That I could probably make it through the whole batch without dumping.
Out of how many previous do you think?
7 or so.
Nice. Okay, that's about where I was, bro. I had and I was doing that homebrewer nostalgia thing where I was saving a bottle from each batch, even though I knew that every bottle that I had opened previously was gusher and was infected. It was terrible. I'm like, why am I saving these for? This is stupid. So I think it was about 7 or 8 where I was realized, you know what I should probably be doing is cleaning that film out from the spout before I bottle. That kind of dumb stuff. So.
I looked out. My earlier batches were good, but once I started listening to the show and taking their advice, my beer got way shittier. Oh wait.
Yeah. No, this predates anything because that's how old I am.
Yeah.
Brian,
you put more dog hair in your mash, sir.
Oh, that's true. Who went first last time? Who wants to go first now?
I did.
All right, Cooper.
Okay.
You're up, baby.
Pale American Ale. This is an 18A American Blonde Ale. I'm gonna crack this puppy, and yeah, this is a beer that again it landed on our porches in. This one maybe not 102 degree heat, but it landed after it had probably been on the truck in 102 degree heat. So
yeah,
that's this time of year. I tell you, it's we should just stop the show for a couple months and pre-record catch up in April and May.
Nothing stops the show. The show must go on.
True.
Okay. Aroma wise, it's got a medium grainy malt aroma with a bit of a wheat-like character. Any impression of sweetness is very subdued. Faint citrusy, earthy hop, low fruity esters, no diacetyl or DMS, getting just a tiny hint of some yeastiness. I wonder if I got a hint of a little bit of a kind of a pumpkin skin-like character, a little hint of acetaldehyde, but I'm guessing on that one. There was something interesting in there that was not too intense, but it was like, what is that? And it's okay. Could be a little pumpkin skin kind of note. Appearance-wise, it's an orangey gold-colored beer with a low white head, mostly finer bubbles. Actually stuck around quite well. The beer has a slight bit of haze, but that could be also from the transport aspect because we just got this the other night. Yeah. I literally took it off my porch, put it in a champagne cooler with ice, and shoved it in a bucket of ice and judged it last night.
Champagne cooler. Whoa.
Wow. Yeah.
Slow down, 1%er.
Fancy Livermore.
Benefit.
Ooh.
Yeah. This one has the benefit of having sat in my fridge for overnight, and all the settling that occurs here in one day of fine particles in the beer. Granted, probably didn't do much.
Yeah. Well, Jeeves probably shook it
that
up
said-
on its way over to you.
Yeah, it's been stirred up, and there's nothing we can do now. Flavor-wise, again, a kind of grainy, weedy malt impression, a medium light level, not a very high impression of sweetness, but it's also not finishing very dry. It leaves a little hint of sweetness. And there's something else in the malt besides just, boring base malt. It seems like there's a little something else there. It doesn't have very much bitterness. Obviously, it's not meant to be a super bitter beer. But again, what keeps coming through to me is the graininess, kind of the medium-low graininess that lingers into the aftertaste for me. There aren't any big, you can have a little hop character in a blonde ale sometimes. This one really doesn't have much in the way of hop character, but it is easy drinking, and there's nothing really attacking your senses here. Just a little touch of some earthiness and maybe a little herbal or spice, but it's mostly balanced in the malt. There's not a lot of hop in the bitterness or the flavor of hops or the aroma. So, but again, the beer is fairly clean, and the fermentation seems like it went well. Good ale fermentation, a little light fruitiness, but nothing super strong poking out there. Mouthfeel wise, medium bodied, a hint of, I just got a little tiny hint of astringency, a little, or maybe it's the graininess kind of biting my tongue too. I don't know. There's no warmth. It's not very creamy. Carbonation is medium, kind of where it should be. Again, that the head's still kind of there, and you can rouse it. It's doing pretty good. It's a good quaffable beer, but there's something just a little bit biting in the mouthfeel that takes away a little bit from that, but it's not. I think that the yeast might be adding to that too, like the yeast that probably got stirred up in suspension, and we've maybe have some heat aspect as well. But although I'm not getting like any oxidation in this beer, it seems like it's well bottled and pretty nicely brewed. So
yeah,
it's just a well brewed blonde ale. It's maybe just a little bit underwhelming, and that there's nothing that really stands out about it to me. Like there's not an interesting hop or like a really a twist to the malt. It should be basic and it should be quaffable, but to find the right balance, I think I would like a little more hop in the beer. And granted, I'm kind of a hops guy, but most of the American blonde ales, have a little bit of hop. It's not just like a wheat beer where it's just like an American wheat ale. This could almost pass for, in some ways, a wheat ale like kind of beer. It's light and it's got. Maybe there might be some wheat in it. I don't know. It's got that grainy aspect that makes it just kind of okay. It's a malt oriented beer. Not a lot of bitterness, anything there. The thing that I want though in a blonde ale is for it to also just be refreshing and quenching. And to me, the graininess is getting in the way of that just a little bit. And a little hop to balance that could make it a little crisper and just kind of, but also it could be, again, the yeast kind of getting stirred up and making a little problem for me here. So something's muddling the other flavors. Otherwise, it's a nice example. It's clean. It's pretty much to the style. I would keep brewing this experiment with different malt additions and hops to find a good balance and make it find a way to make it just a little more interesting. To me, a blonde ale shouldn't be just completely. It's not completely characterless or anything. It's the wheat and the base malt. Not much bitterness, not much anything else. But it's clean, so I can't really fault it for much either. It's a good drinking beer. You could sit at a baseball game and drink a ton of these. I gave it a 34. It's a very good beer. And I'll probably drink this whole bottle. But I'm curious to hear what Brian had to say about it.
Don't drink my bottle, bro.
We'll go from there. I'm saving your bottle for you.
All right.
So.
All right, Shar.
All right. So Tyler, thanks for coming on the show. I got to ask you the question I always try to ask. Are you in a homebrew club?
Not yet. No. said, just kind of picking it up really this year. And obviously with COVID, while it's given me more time to brew, it hasn't really given me the opportunity to kind of outreach in person. So
He's the lone wolf, Shar.
Yeah, you kind of self-radicalized here. So you'll be able to go meet some people, some other folks near you when this is all a little bit over. So I've got to believe that up where you're at, there's a lot of good homebrewers who are in a lot of good clubs, and you'll find the one that's right for you. So that'll be cool. So I like this beer, and kind of to echo what Brian was just talking about, blonde ale is supposed to be kind of low in flavor, low in aroma. The style guidelines talk about how it's, the gateway beer. It's probably not the thing that they actually, the exact words they say, but it's something that people that they're used to drinking fizzy yellow lager can drink and have an idea that, wow, there's something else out there in the world than just, Bud Light or something. So this is not a beer that's supposed to be real huge. It's not a pale ale. It's not a hot bomb. It's supposed to be kind of light and simple and easy drinking. I think it really accomplishes that. Aroma, there's low aroma overall, low malt, no hop aroma, no diacetyl, no off aromas. Very, very clean. Gave it 8 out of 12. Again, this is one of those beers. It's kind of like in a sense, this is like a ale version of an international lager that is an all malt beer that maybe doesn't have a huge amount of stuff in there, but as an all malt beer, it's going to have more flavor than a Bud Light or a Lucky Lager or something like that. It'll be cleaner. It'll taste better. So in some ways, this beer is kind of defined more by what it isn't than what it is. So you did a good job in putting everything in there that should be in there and keeping out the bad aroma. It's going to be 8 out of 12 for aroma. Appearance, 2 out of 3. Has a heroic, long-lasting white head. Light straw color. Heroic. If it's got a big head, I like to call it heroic. I don't know why. I just got to say heroic head. It's
the Avengers of beerhead.
More like you float a bottle of what Earth's greatest heroes? Tyler's Blonde Ale. That's one of hers. Kevin Bacon and Tyler's Blonde Ale.
Right. What do you want to be when you grow up, Jimmy? I want to be Tyler's Blonde Ale carbonation head. I want to be.
Probably better than half the things that kids dream of being when they grow up. But my little brother wanted to be a garbage man. Thankfully, he joined the Air Force instead.
Full career, and you get a pension out of it.
But when he was like 7, that kid wanted to be a garbage man so bad. Oh my God. Anyway, I knocked it off a point because there's some chill haze here. We'll talk about that a little bit at the end. At least I assume it's kind of a chill haze. It's homebrew and beer in general. I don't really. There's always going to be some kind of haze, most of the time. But this seemed kind of excessive enough where I knocked it off a point. Flavor, there's a soft malty sweetness up front. Hop bitterness comes up to balance in the mid palate. The finish is long and balanced a little bit toward malt. Very well attenuated, which I really like. It's extremely clean. I get no off flavors, kind of low malt, low bitterness overall. But again, it's a quaffable beer that you would drink, like Cooper was saying, at a ball game, and you'd have like 4 or 5 of these and be happy and not be smashed and just enjoy yourself and enjoy that a lot. I give it 14 out of 20 for flavor. Mouthfeel, 5 out of 5. Medium low body, medium carbonation, more perky than creamy because it's decently carbonated, which it should be. No warming, it's not creamy, no astringency. So perfect score on mouthfeel. Overall impression, gave it 7 out of 10 for a total score of 36, right just a couple of points away from what Cooper had. I think it's a really well-crafted beer. You did a nice job with this. And you've been brewing for less than a year, you said?
Consistently for a year. I'd done a couple
Yeah.
batches over the past few years. Yeah.
But still, I mean, this is a really nicely done beer for something you've done early in your home brewing career. So well done. I don't think I made anything this good until I was 3 or 4 years deep in the hobby. There's not a lot to hide behind in this style. And in that way, it's like an American light lager or American lager or one of those, where it really shows off your skill with process. Because there's nothing objectionable in here. And to the extent that we are giving it the scores in kind of the mid 30s that we are, which are good scores, it's because of it has nothing. They're more like, I think, recipe issues or minor problems or something. None of them are process issues. I think what you're doing is fundamentally really good, and just keep doing what you're doing. I might add a little more hop flavor and aroma, like not a lot. This is not a pale ale. It's not supposed to be a hot bomb, but not more bitterness at all. But I might bump up your flavor and aroma hops maybe by a third, like 30% or so.
A smidge.
A smidge. Maybe 25%, but just a little bit. Because again, you're trying to introduce people to flavors and aromas that are pleasant and good, but maybe they're just not used to. And it would give it a little more distinctiveness. Then also with regard to the haze, and it still kind of lingers as it warms up some too. I'll be curious if you use like Irish moss or what's that one that I always use from Whirlflock or one of those. Using something like that in your boil toward the end of the boil can really help get the tannins and particulates and stuff out. So this becomes the clear beer that this really is supposed to be. But overall, 36, I think it's that falls in the very good category. So right. You're brewing better than I did at this point when I started home brewing. So well done, Tyler. Thank you.
But then also on the clarifying, like at the end, like so that your Irish moss and your Whirlflock is only going to do so much. At the end, you can also use things like biofine or gelatin to pull out some of the proteins and polyphenols and drop the yeast out and make it drop bright. Biofine, I like. That's a great one. You know, gelatin is okay too. You might want to bump up your hop component even a little more because it's going to pull out a lot of polyphenols and drop a little more out. Then it tastes good in the fermenter, and then you drop everything out and some of your flavor goes away. That definitely does happen. So but it's not a pale ale or an IPA where you have to I need all this hop to stay. Doesn't matter as much. A little more, it's gonna be fine. But there's some clarifying agents that'll make it drop bright nicely, and just cold and time will also help. But that and I think that's also gonna clear it up and maybe make it a little more crisp and refreshing. Like I was, there's something in there in the haze that's making it a little bit muddled, but not in a bad way. Again, it's a very clean beer. So I'm curious. What do you ferment in? Are you using plastic buckets still, or did you graduate? Do you have glass fermenters? Do you have a stainless steel? And then, is there any wheat in the beer? Because I'm getting a real big graininess, like a wheatiness to it. And so we'll let you talk about your recipe, please.
Yeah. So to the note on the refiners, I did use Irish moss, and it came out of the fermenter really clear. And the first couple of bottles, I stuck them in the fridge for about an hour or two, and when I poured them, they came out clear. And then next day I poured another one that had been in there for a day, and I was like, where did this haze come from?
So that is a chill haze, as Brian.
Yeah.
Brian called it out.
Yep.
Good. Yeah. You can...
Let's see. Your first question was the fermenters. I did sat in a week in a plastic bucket, and then a little less than a week, or maybe a week, in glass carboy. I had been getting some heavy yeast flavors on my previous couple batches where I had not done the secondary, and so I tried secondary, and I think it turned out a lot better.
Good.
No wheat in my recipe. There is a heavy hand of Pilsner malt.
Okay.
Then a little bit of Cara Pils and Victory.
I think 805, which is probably the best blonde ale you can buy. I think that either they did and they changed it, or they still do have a little handful of honey malt in there.
Ah.
To kind of give a little bit of that character that you were talking about, Cooper. So, and maybe that might be something to add in there. It's, adds a little sweetness. It doesn't really taste like honey, but is that little sort of like.
We should get Brilson on the line here. Just patch
I'll dial him up right now. Hold on.
Yeah.
Hey, Matt. Yeah, no, you don't want to. No, you don't want to talk. Oh, well, but I just thought. Never. Don't call you again. Matt, hello.
No love. Oh.
He's gone.
You were hung up on by our close personal friend, Matt Brynildson. I can't believe it.
True. Yeah, so that might be something to try, too, to kind of give a little bit of that depth in there, too, because obviously I haven't tasted it, but blonde ales it's very easy to go into that sort of, flat line flavor with a blonde ale because it's a blonde ale. You don't want a whole lot to it, right? But yeah, so that's
enough carbonation to keep it peppy, and it's got a lingering, the flavors that are there are good. So, yeast wise, did you American ale yeast, or what did you use in it?
Yeah, 1056. When I fermented at this time, it was the hottest couple days yet of the summer.
That happens, man, every time.
and that's kind of reason why. So when I brewed, I wanted to brew a style that my mom and mother-in-law would drink. And so then I also had to say, okay, it's going to be hot, so pick a style that can live with a little bit of a warmer fermentation. So
do you at least keep it in like a closet? I mean, you're in the Northwest, so it's cooler there than here, but like keep it in a kind of a fairly well-controlled temperature area.
Luckily, I do have a half basement that I'm sitting in right now, and our laundry room is east facing. There's no vents that go into it. It actually stays surprisingly cold. I was able to keep it under 71 for the most part for the first few days.
Yeah, I started brewing with no temp control in California, and it would go up to like 78 sometimes in the summer. Like, okay, or 80. You're like, okay, well, my friends are like, you shouldn't really do that. Like, oh, I need temp control.
Yeah, we all start off that way, but Tyler, I didn't get any characteristics of this beer that make like the fusel alcohols or some of the bad flavors that come with those high temperature fermentation excursions. So whatever you did with your temp, putting it in that basement worked out good.
71 is reasonable. I mean, it goes up every degree. I think it goes up. The ester production goes up by a factor of 10. So you get up into mid 70s and above, you're going to have some trouble. But 68 to 71 or so, you're going to be okay. That's pretty good.
Yeah. And you know what, Tyler, man, I've been brewing since 1998, and I still wouldn't brew a blonde ale because they're hard. They're hard to do, and I'm not confident enough to in my brewing or my recipe formulation skills to do that. So, kudos to you. You got about a 34 or something. That's a very good score on a
35 average. Yeah,
on a very challenging beer. It's pretty good.
Yeah, there's nothing to hide behind here. So Brian, did you get any like in the nose? I thought I might have been tricking myself, but like when I pour a little fresh bit and see if you get any pumpkin skin at all. Like,
all right, let me go back. Let me go in my kitchen and I'll pour that real quick.
We're gonna wait 12 years now for Brian Sharp.
I'm not getting it as much. I'm not really getting it tonight. So I think the sample I had last night might have been warmer.
Tyler's gonna have 4 kids by the time Brian gets back.
No, but Here
we go. Still waiting, Shar.
Still waiting.
Timing. This is what you do, Cooper. You send Shar off on these
on a tangent.
Don Quixote, fucking go slay that dragon, Shar. Oh
yeah,
I'm right on it. There you go.
So again, it was base malt and what were the other malts again? Remind me.
Pilsner, some Cara Pils, and Victory.
Pilsner, Carapils, and Victory. So like the Victory is what's giving it a little character there.
That's a little
like kind of a biscuity character.
Yeah. Try some honey malt, man. I'm telling you. Just try it.
All right, let's.
Here he goes.
No, I think it's just the.
You know,
I'm not.
I would have to talk myself into pumpkin.
Can you talk yourself into biscuits? Fresh baked biscuits.
Yeah, road apples. Fresh.
All right, there we go.
Yeah, I think it's the biscuit malt was saying something to me, and I just like, what is that? Pumpkin skin biscuit? I'm confused.
No, I can't talk myself into that either. It's I think the aroma overall to me is at a very low level. Like I said in the last show, maybe I've got coronavirus. Maybe I'm a little bit stuffed up from the
Can
smoke.
you talk yourself into wheat, even though there's no wheat in the beer?
I can't tell if at that Shar, if Tyler would be like, I hope he does have coronavirus, so I don't get a pumpkin. Tyler in a weird position to win coronavirus.
You know what would be fucking awesome radio / podcasting is me having coronavirus. That would be fucking amazing podcasting right there.
Yeah,
you couldn't buy that shit. Oh my God.
I don't know. I mean, I probably would wish that to not happen.
We've judged three beers
JD.
together tonight from the last show and this show all together. I don't think you have the coronavirus, Brian.
Right.
No, I don't.
You know what would be amazing is if I just exploded right now.
What would be amazing is if I just died right here during Dr. Homebrew. Oh my God, that would be the most amazing. No,
on the freeway to ghost ride my whip and got hit by a semi. That would be cool, guys.
What ghost riding your whip? What in 2009 call?
Yeah.
On the last show, we thought we had, hemlock or arsenic or something. I don't know. We're just
cyanide. Cyanide. No.
Yeah.
Cyanide.
No, I'm not. I'm not getting acetaldehyde in this beer. I'm not getting the.
I'm not either. I'm not. It's not there. It's not there.
It's worth asking, Brian, especially in a beer that's this light
not much
and has so little to hide behind. Acetaldehyde is always like the flaw that kind of jumps out. But Tyler, that says a lot for your process and how you boil and everything else, that you don't have an acetaldehyde issue with a beer that, if you're going to have it, it's going to come out in this beer.
For sure.
Keep working on it though. But I would say, you've got some glass. You've got, you don't have to buy a jacketed stainless steel fermenter, but glass is good. Be really careful with it. Use handle carrier things, but and keep it clean. But plastic, like my first few batches, I fermented in plastic, and I had good luck early on. I just followed the recipe and was really careful about sanitation. But eventually, plastic is going to get scratches in it, and it's a perfect place for bacteria to hide. I had a beer that early on in my career, my third or fourth beer, I won some awards. I was like, awesome. I'll just use these plastic fermenters. And I didn't know what Star San or PBW was at the time. I just cleaned them with hot water because I didn't want to put soap in them either. And eventually something probably got scratched. And I had a beer that was like, I called it Porter Gone Postal because it was just full of defects all of a sudden. I'm just like, oh man, I got to up my game here and get some glass. And
well, I am going to be pedantic for a minute, Brian, because you've met me. It's not scratches; it's the porosity of the plastic. I've never fermented in glass in 25 years of brewing because I'm scared to death. I've known several people personally who have broken the carboys with or without the hot liquid on top of that have had serious ER level injuries from that. The plastic, it's cheap. You can change it out once, twice a year. It's not this, but my brother-in-law, who's a microbiologist and a really fine home brewer, shout out to Yan if you're listening, because you usually do. He's, the scratches are like the Grand Canyon, and a bacteria is like me. You're going to wash that out. The issue is the porosity of the plastic, and if you don't clean it, if you don't change it out regularly, this stuff will hide in the porousness of that plastic, and you just can't get rid of it because it's kind of gotten into the plastic itself. And that's like, to me,
the cilia or whatever that protects.
That's probably a better way to look at it, honestly. Yeah. So is there anything, the PETE, like the better bottle stuff, is that any better than the common buckets you get?
It's in the name.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's better. Yeah, I mean, if you just look, it's a different. If you just feel it and look at it, it's a different type of plastic. But even that, I would. The point of that to me is that it's cheap enough that you can replace that once or twice a year, or once every 2 years, depending how much you're brewing and how much you're cleaning it, and you're not going to have any problems.
Bone plastic,
and you're not having
instead of like a mold.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly. It's a blow molded thing, I'm sure.
Yeah, well,
I think that's pretty good advice. You can brew really good beer in plastic. People that say you get a plastic taste from your beers, the plastic doesn't really go into your beer so much at all. Like it's not that. It's like if you get a plasticky taste, it's probably a phenolic that came from a wild yeast or something.
Yeah.
Well,
but
Tyler,
the plastic itself,
Tyler, do you have anything for the guys? You want them to clarify, or
do you want us to shut up already, like JP does?
No, this is all great. I really appreciate the feedback from people other than people who have to tell me, oh, it's great. So,
that beer is very quaffable, and you did a good job for an early batch. Like you're doing well. Keep it up. And I love early homebrewers, like the energy that you have. I wish I still had that. Because of the apocalypse, I might soon have to just homebrew everything I drink soon. So, but kudos to you, and keep the bug going strong and enjoy the hobby. It's great.
Yeah, and Tyler, send us some more beers as you progress, and things that are good, things that are terrible. Send us things you have questions about or whatever. We'd love to get some more beer from you.
Truth.
Yeah, sounds great. I've got some ideas for the fall. So
nice.
As things turned out, I'll definitely keep you guys in mind.
Please do.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Bye, Tyler. Thanks, brother.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Stay safe.
All right, that was Tyler. Let's take a quick break. I think we've only done one break, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. Let's take a quick break, and we'll come right back. We'll wrap things up. It's Dr. Homebrew. Hang on.
Now serving patient number 189. Number 189 to the counter, please.
Now back to Dr. Homebrew.
All right, welcome back, everybody. It's Dr. Homebrew. Thanks for hanging out. We had a pretty good show for you guys today. We drank a Belgian Dark Strong, and the boys drank a blonde ale. I tell you, you guys, it's when I was first homebrewing, the beer was terrible. Not only that I made, but I think that just people made in general.
Take a can of hopped malt syrup and dump it into some lukewarm water.
Yeah,
mix it with some sugars.
I missed that wave by like 5 years or something.
Yeah, me too.
It's like you pick someone's house flavor out. I love telling the story because I just like making fun of McDolfer sometimes. But when he was first learning how to homebrew, he would bring his beer and I go, oh man, I can always tell when you make some beer, McDowell, because it tastes like bubble gum and it tastes so good. And I thought that was a compliment at the time. And we all thought that was a compliment at the time because it was. And it wasn't that it was, bubblegum beer tastes good, but it was, I can always tell when it's your beer because it's so distinct. And that was the Janet's Brown, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, now we all know how not to do that. But at the time in the late 90s, early 2000s, it's like, I don't know. Nobody knows. But now we sort of do. And so we see a lot of these homebrewers who have been brewing for a year or two, or like Tyler said, off and on for 5, but recently consistent. And that's what you have to do to keep up your skills. You have to be brewing consistently. You can't just expect to make award-winning or 40-point plus beers by brewing once a year. You can't do it. You cannot do it.
You can't do it without. Yeah.
Yeah.
JP, you were talking about like the early 2000s. When I first started judging, like 2002, 2003, it would be rare to get through not just prelims, but a real competition and not give somebody the courtesy 13. Because it would be literally, because you could give somebody a 0, but kind of judging convention is You don't give someone lower than a 13.
Yeah.
And literally every time you'd go judge, you'd have at least one 13. And frankly, I've probably been 7-8 years since I've had a 13-point beer.
Amen to that. Like quality of beer, home brewing has gone up exponentially in all the years.
Sure.
So
Immensely. Yeah.
okay.
All right, I think
well, are we done here?
Yeah, I think we're done.
Gentlemen, it's been an honor and a pleasure, if not a privilege, and we'll see you again soon.
Absolutely. If you guys
We're
want
looking
to
for a few good beers.
If you guys want to send in beers, email Brian at thebrewingnetwork.com, and he will get back to you with addresses and all that kind of fun stuff for you to send some beers. That's really great. And if you want
his social security number, his home address. Yeah.
If you want to listen to more content like this, we have tons of shows on the Brewing Network, and you should follow us all on social media. You'll find us. I don't know. It's fine. Whatever. I hope you guys are doing safe. I hope you guys are being healthy. Brian Shaw, Brian Cooper, any last tidbits of information you want to give to the audience now that I'm done with my talking?
Don't die.
All right, perfect. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Safe.
We'll see you later.
Somebody please send us a Ralph beer.